Welcome back to the E-commerce Leader Series podcast. I'm Eric Bidinger. I'm your co-host, co-founder, and CEO of Luca AI. And today I have the pleasure of welcoming Huw Wright, the CFO of the Curious Drinker. And we're going to have a great conversation because Curious Drinker has built one of the UK's leading subscription businesses by combining not only selling gin online, but curated products, storytelling, a strong sense of community. And today we're going to be exploring subscription commerce, customer loyalty, discovery, AI, all that good stuff. So Huw, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. So for our audience who doesn't know you and probably doesn't know the Curious Drinker, could you tell us a little bit about your journey and the journey of the Curious Drinker as well?
Absolutely. Sure. Okay, so I'm Huw Wright. My background is in consumer goods world, mostly the alcohol side of things. So started off at William Grant and Sons, probably too many years ago now. And over the years, I've worked across many businesses, across business, leadership, and strategy, including as managing director of a distillery up in Edinburgh, consultant for another ecom business, non-exec director for other booze industries, and board advisor. So I suppose what I really enjoy is helping businesses and people figure out how to move forward, whether that's, growing a business, solving problems, or making, better decisions. I suppose, yeah, that's me from a professional point of view. The Curious Drinker, so not even been a year at the Curious Drinker, so newly appointed. So what the Curious Drinker does, and I think does very well, is gives experience. It's a curated box, so you have distilleries all over the world, and we bring gin primarily, but rum also, and we're starting to get into other categories where we'll bring this beautiful bottle, some perfect serve. So that could be a cocktail, and we'll have a mixologist that goes through working out what the best cocktail that you can get out of that spirit, and then snacks and all of that lovely stuff, and a magazine that kind of does Q&A for the distillers that you're drinking. So do that per month, and it's just about trying to provide those distillery experiences that you can't get to your home.
Right, fantastic. And so can you tell us a little bit, clearly you're selling much more than a product, you're selling an experience. Can you tell us a little bit about the community building aspect of how you're managing your customer relationship?
Absolutely. So, I think nowadays it's quite difficult to have, I suppose, authenticity and transparency, especially with so much things going on in the world and so quickly. You don't actually know where you're getting, consumer goods from. It's very quick to order and get it the next day. So I suppose what we're trying to do is also we have the friends of the distillers friends community, whereby we try and host events with these distillers, so our members can come to it and actually meet and greet those people virtually, obviously at the moment, but we are thinking about rolling over events where you can meet them face to face, so that we'll bring them along. Our members get to ask all of the questions that they'd love to, that they don't just get from the copy that we do in the magazine. So hopefully getting that connection is key, and I think quite a lot of the distillers get a lot out of it because they've got they get real-time feedback on these products. They're not always their own core product. Sometimes they'll work with us to go, hey, I'd like to try something new. It's a way that it might not be a continuous product, but it'd be really good to get captivated. They're a captivated audience. Let's get their feedback. What do they think about it? What could we learn from it? Out of texture, mouthfeel, and all of that. So that's how we're building our community, and we have many groups. We have many communications, probably well, we know that it's a juggle to make sure that that communication's not overwhelming. They get what they want from it, but again, we're all individuals. So what one person might get out of the questions or the magazines, another person doesn't want to get the magazines. They want to have that quick, I had that question, I want that answer. So it's tailoring to make sure they get individual experience, but you're trying to do this as a wide wide scope. But it has challenges.
Yeah, I can speak to that as well. I mean, it's hard to know where to put the cursor, right? When you're dealing with such a wide audience, which I think you do. Can you talk to us a little bit about maybe the diversity in age group, diversity in maybe locations? Is there any particular behavior there that you can attribute to certain of your customer types?
Yes, absolutely. So look, primarily we've got more of the 35 to 45, and the cohort is very kind of, well, the demographic is female 35 to 45, but which they love getting told what they're getting. So they really like to go out and go, oh, this is new, I'm going to try it. It's the lowering their risk but having the same expectations. So actually we can predict how they'll feel about what the product they get. That'll be all on the gin. But the younger audience, so what I can tell you is the 18 to 30 year olds are recording that they're drinking less. So 2018, I think that was, those that were recording that they were drinking less was probably about 30%. Fast forward to 2023, which is the last data I have, that's more like 49%. So it's a huge jump. But what they like to do, because their relevance is seen from how quickly they have the next big thing, they love to be early adopters, de-risking their early adopter piece, because obviously, it's still quite expensive. You're buying a box for £47. Quite a lot of spirits nowadays, especially with the excise duties that have gone up and probably will go up again in the next budget. But there's quite a conscious decision on anything that's above £30, especially in the booze part. But they want to be, hey, I'm drinking this. This is the reason why I'm drinking this, so that have the story behind it. That they're having the authority to talk about it. They want to have that commanding presence over it and say, no, I've picked it. So they've started to explore more on the rum, and we have seasonal cocktail kits that they're starting to buy, because they're like, I can do this. Look at me, and social media is playing a huge part in that. So it's interesting how different parts, different cohorts start to think about what they want to achieve out of their purchase. So it's not a spinning plate, but they're unpredictable because they're ready for the next thing. So to keep them engaged, it's cool. That's before the one's being launched, we're already on the next one to say. And this is the next one, which you could argue has a behavioural pattern that we're very much consuming world, perhaps. Next.
And fashion and low attention spans and all of that good stuff. And what do you think is particular about the alcohol category that makes it so ripe for hearing the story about the producer, hearing the story behind the alcohol, and it actually really just completely changing the perception that we have about the product in itself? And sorry, maybe I'm projecting here, but I'm thinking you can buy a bottle of wine at a supermarket and you can like it, and then you can go to a wine tasting and hear the entire story about where the wine comes from and the producer and all of this, and then suddenly it tastes different. I mean, it's genuinely tastes different. The experience itself is different. It's enriched, it's better, and then you're willing to pay a premium for that.
Absolutely, and I suppose the word that you just said there is experience. What we can invoke on as that experience piece. I love going to south of France, and I love going to holiday there. I'll pick up a bottle of Provence, rosé. It'll be the best thing in the world when I'm there. Taking it back home, I'm like, no, it's not as refreshing. But again, I wasn't drinking it like 3 p.m. on a sunny afternoon.
Exactly.
So that's key, is to find that experience. But I suppose to your point, to work out, how you do it, like to buy that kind of premium. Those that want to learn even more, they want to know, okay, but why have you picked that mash bill versus the other? Like, what were you trying to achieve, distillers? The best engagement are the distillers that talk about how they want to push, or being a disruptor of the category, and they're saying, we don't take whiskey, for example. Quite a lot of the new distillers now are very much trying to be like, it's not about age statements. Age is but a number. Actually, what's the raw ingredients, what's the raw materials we're putting into it, and why we're putting that kind of raw materials in. Live yeast can change so much, whereas whiskey has always been seen as, yeah, we make really good liquid and we put it in the best barrel we can afford, and then we'll just age it for 12 years and it'll be fine. We've got an 18-year-old, we've got a 20-year-old whiskey, and that perception has completely changed.
Right.
Because actually we can go further afield. We can get, technologies change whereby we can get accelerated maturation through a fuselage. These companies are propping up. They're using wood chips to mature liquid. From a Scotch point of view, that's a no-go. But from a rum point of view, which is near on kind of cowboy world, I retract that. But as in, like, it's expressionate when it comes down to rum. The red tape's not all there, so they can really push and innovate how they're doing it, and they can innovate what raw materials are going to be included. So then they can start saying, well, this sugar molasses, from this region takes this mouthfeel, but we'll take it with this sugar juice, and actually that has a finish that combines, gives you this experience of refreshing, dry, but actually with a huge mouthfeel where you can feel it coming all over. So yeah, it's brilliant.
It's amazing, because I'm hearing you talk about it, and it's so clear how important at every step of the way the storytelling is, right? I mean, if you're a good storyteller, you can just sell ice to Eskimos, right? It's and you just did with the rum. That was very good. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about customer acquisition. Sorry to come back to some dry business metrics, but obviously for you, that's the name of the game. You're trying to keep your customer base engaged month after month. So how do you do that first, and how do you as CFO think differently about growth, and how to achieve that?
Yeah, I love that question. Great question. So when I first started 10 months ago, it was the craft gin club, and it was very much, we do gin there, and I will get to acquisition part, but the first metric that I looked at was actually churn levels, because actually I was like, are we trying to, it's so much more expensive to acquire now. Social, it's much more expensive. SEO, sorry, and all of that. The Meta's hugely expensive now, and that's a massive step change. So I was looking at churn levels to be like, okay, it's really expensive getting it in at the top funnel, but are people sticking around? And are they sticking around because we are discounting, or is it because of the experience? Has they got market fit? So I concentrated on that piece, and actually churn levels back then weren't great.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking, I kept liking this as a sinking ship. There's no point, just getting a bucket and bowing out. We've got to find that hole, we've got to plug that hole, so that we don't lose any more people. And then we'll use that experience to then start saying, cool, right, let's clear the decks and let's see what people actually want. So churn levels was really important. That's when it comes down to experience, what people are getting out of it. You can look at the curated box. You could probably find you could probably find that box. We send a box out per month. You could probably find perhaps cheaper ways of doing it, but what you don't get is you don't get access to the distiller. You don't get curated, or rather designed, cocktail that goes really well with this, gin, spirit, or that rum. So if people were just leaving, but there's a reason why they're leaving. Let's find and identify why that reason is. Ask them. God, they're around. We had call to cancel, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think it should provide total flexibility, because if I have to call someone and I just want to get out, I'm going to have my last impression of a business is doing something I don't want to do. Yeah. So I was like, look, I'd like to change that. I can't change everything overnight, but let's concentrate on churn levels. Let's make sure that, those that are lapped say why, ask them. We don't have to, hello, can we have a message? If they don't want it, they don't want to engage, that's absolutely fine. But we know that wasn't the right customer for us. That starts the growth. That for me draws a line, make sure that experience is good. And then I can start bringing people in. And, unfortunately, it's an ecom business. I say unfortunately, it's an ecom business. It's brilliant that it's an ecom business, but it means that I am competing with a lot. So, making sure that and we're a luxury product, it's a luxury subscription. If I'm looking at the data, most of the luxury subscriptions are all electronic. So they're all in like Netflix, they're all in, TV, and they're all, so I'm competing with those. I'm also competing with you just going to the shop. I'm also competing with you going to these distilleries if you were that way, that motivated. So it's showcasing this is what you get, but also let's build some exclusivity to it. Because in the booze industry, if you have a limited edition, you say why you have a limited edition. Not only do you see authenticity to it, but also people they'll be like, well, I'm going to get 2 boxes, one to drink and one to keep. So that's how we've started kind of changing it. We've just done a rebrand, which that was another thing that I kind of wanted to get over the line, because then I've got the authority to talk about different categories of spirit. It's not Craft Gin Club doing rum. It is the Curious Drinker gives you, those that want to explore and discover, a platform for you to come and do it, but also to give you a de-risking situation, because we've gone out and tested it for you. And then couple that with the fact that, you can be the first adopter. We're the first person to come to find the new product, the new beverage. So it's amplifying that part. Unfortunately, discounts are one of those triggers, and it's a necessary evil, but at the same time, it's what do I want to achieve? Do I want to do loads of volume, or do I want to have that kind of creme de la creme premium part?
We're going to get that's a question that's going to come in well. That was really interesting what you said. I mean, so much to unpack here between the curation of the experience, between the change in the branding to make sure you don't get the veto vote and broaden a little bit your appeal. This exclusivity bit, it's so important. And then the retention, I mean, we're facing it in our business as well on a daily basis. And it needs to be a singular strategic objective that the moment you get a customer through the door at that literally hour, your sole focus should be to retain that customer, whatever needs to be done. Because for obvious reasons of spreading your customer acquisition cost across mmany periods, but also it's just so much easier to keep someone in as opposed to acquire them, as you said, in an environment where CACs are rising and you're not really sure what your ROI is on all of that.
Oh, I so much agree with that comment. Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit, maybe just up leveling it from your particular company to a general subscription business? Could you tell for our audience what you think the biggest misconception is that people have about subscription businesses?
Oh, that's an even better question than the last. So look, I think trying to unpack that. I think UK in particular, because my only experience from a subscription point of view or e-commerce point of view is actually from UK. I think my opinion is that people have got subscription fatigue. We've got so many apps and businesses now that have been set up just to consolidate all of your subscriptions, or find out that you've got subscriptions that you maybe forgot about, and say, look, we've got a way to cancel these. We've got a way to give you the control versus you getting charged every month and forgetting about, what value they're kind of bringing. So that's I also think is that drives me to kind of go to your point. The first hour, the most important thing to do is retain that person. That part of being like, I suppose, being proud, but also being so sure of yourself with confidence that there is a reason why we build value. The reason why we're going to be charging you every month is because of this. You are with us for this journey. We're going to get better and better. We're going to understand you better. We can get to know you better, and actually finding out that we just want to retain you. But I think quite a few businesses, subscription businesses, only focus on the quick short-term win of just being like, we're going to gain so many people, that they forget that actually, how I always ask, the first question I asked was, how many boxes do I need to sell to break even my acquisition cost? Or how many boxes do I need these people to buy to basically, pay for all of my fixed costs? And that's kind of those I suppose KPIs is so key to kind of then say, right, cool. So I know I've got to incentivize you to stay for 10 boxes, let's say, or 10 months. What can I do to make sure that you stay for those 10 months, but just carry on staying is one of the biggest things and one of the biggest challenges. Because, like I said earlier, I've got the 35 to 45 females that just love the gin. They would actually they'd probably just want a smaller bottle because they might not be able to finish it all. We've had quite a lot of that feedback. But, the younger ones, they actually even want smaller bottles because they want the bigger bottles just to show off, but actually they want to go to the next thing, the next product, the next story. So they probably want smaller bottles, but very much in the same shape. It's got to be, that this is the full bottle, but miniature size. So they can taste it, they can talk about it, but then they've left it, and they can go on to the next one. So it's managing those expectations and being true to what you're trying to achieve. So, if a business, especially in the subscription business, doesn't really have that kind of mission or vision statements nailed, I think it's quite difficult to it's quite quickly to get into the momentum of like, the next month's here. Right, we need to tick off the same list again. We need to tick over those boxes. Right, cool, we're on to the next month. Forgetting actually a month is a short period, but also if you want to continue being relevant, you can't just think of it as 1 month cycles. It has got to be longer than that. So that, which is difficult. It's quite full on, isn't it? As you know, to be like, oh gosh, we're already on the next one. What are we going to do?
And you have to think about all of this, the curation, the retention. And I think what you were talking about just now, which is fascinating to me at least, is figuring out what your real unit economics are in terms of the payback on your CAC, the covering of your fixed cost. I mean, you realize that there's a lot of levers to pull, but ultimately the sweet spot is actually a very small area of your overall map. And just being able to just navigate your way to it it's challenging. It's really tough, and it's dynamic. It changes all the time. So therein lies the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so segue into what you were saying about kind of keeping this customer engaged. So you're, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are in a way allowing customers to discover products that they wouldn't have bought themselves. And so do you think that this process of discovery is kind of a competitive advantage, meaning that you're competing against, going to a supermarket, buying the same product every week, every month, over and over again? How you're turning, so feel free to take this whichever way you want. I was thinking about, this element of surprise, this element of novelty, this curiosity that we all have, this, as you mentioned several times now, this kind of like looking on for the next new thing. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how all of those attributes are kind of giving you this competitive advantage versus the alternative, which is buying a bottle in the supermarket?
Absolutely. Look, I think, and before I go into it, we're definitely learning. Every day is a school day, as they say. But I mean, to remember, probably still is apparent now, but quite a lot of the video social platforms are all talking about the unboxing. Lots of unboxing videos. Not just with our products, but big purchases and things like that. That seems to have slowed down slightly, but that's, again, we'll just talk about the experience, because that unboxing experience and giving you the surprise, because we don't tell people, we only everybody opens the boxes together, and therefore you can get online and you can have that community. Hey, that the book club kind of reveal. This is what you're going to be reading in the magazine. So that's what we try and bring to the table. That's the competitive advantage. But we also have been doing it for so long that the people that we have such a wide network of people to talk to about what's next in the industry. Right. These distilleries that, the new up and coming, but also those that have always been innovating. They might try something new, so we might actually have another conversation with them. But also all of these brands, these consumer brands, follow the same business ethics, the same kind of personalities and values that we do, and therefore we feel like it's a nice fit. We don't tend to go too big into the disruptor world to a degree, because actually, from my feeling about Purist Drinker, is that it is a ecosystem to amplify these brands, these small brands that really can do with having a time and a space to chat about why they do it and what they do. So that unboxing experience is probably the key thing. And so we've learned from it. We know that we need to change it just to keep relevant in the next piece, but the surprise is a huge thing. I'd like to get back into being more, more exclusive. I don't, if we sell out or it's you have different products and a different journey, I think that's fine, because we can start using the data that we have on their preferences and what they enjoy to then give them a bespoke experience. And that's going to be, I think that's key, because again, you've got these businesses that kind of go, hey, we can control all of your subscriptions in one place, so you don't have to do any of the legwork.
Yeah,
so that's what we're trying to do more and more of.
That's great. I'm smiling because it's and this is not a conversation for today, but that's exactly what we do at Luca. It's kind of abstracting all the complexity so that you have something that's turnkey, intuitive, and easy enough to use that you could be a 12-year-old, and you just get to enjoy the product.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Can we switch gear a little bit? Can we talk about operating a subscription business, especially something like the Curious Drinker? It's obviously quite complex. You have a lot of brands. You have some of them established, some of them emerging. You're curating an experience. You're managing a customer base. You're running a business. So it's all about, profitability and cash and inventory and etc. plus the logistics. I don't know. I'm just roll calling through them. I'm sure there's a lot more that I forget. Could you tell us, so in the time you have been there, whether there's been changes that you've implemented that made your day-to-day easier, or it hasn't been, or you have plans on doing this, how you're leveraging technology to help you do that?
Well, yeah, I think that is the crux of it, because you are doing quite a lot of these distilleries what we send out in a month could be their half-year capacity.
Right.
So we have to engage with those kind of distilleries well in advance. And that could be a year in advance.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know who's going to be with us in a year's time. So ordering that correctly and buying forward, what you don't want to do is you don't want to overload a distillery.
Mm-hmm.
You also don't want to overload the market.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to put any stoppers on the stock. As soon as the consumer good starts getting too much for demand, obviously then we start discounting, and then the whole value starts to change, and then it becomes that kind of price versus value suddenly becomes quite a complex piece, and you're making sure that they're both positively correlated, or rather, you feel like you're getting the fair value out of the money that you're spending on it. So that's really difficult, and that's probably the biggest challenge that I find is making sure my demand plan is correct. The operational side of things, we outsource quite a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
That it's quite easy to manage, but also we de-risk it, because then even if we did have a warehouse or a fulfillment center, those times that I've perhaps miscalculated that we're going to be higher, there'll be more demand or less demand, suddenly starts changing, because then I don't have to sell off capacity on the warehouse, and I don't have to change where the warehouse, space needs to be reorganized or restructured. So that's why we do the outsourcing side of things. So ops, I feel really secure about, but it's the, who's going to be with us tomorrow and telling them today is really tricky, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to have slow moving stock, you don't want to have obsolete stock, you don't want to have working capital resource that's in bottle and not being sold, for people to enjoy them. So yeah, that's a very good question, and I'm still learning to make sure I've got the most efficient part. But we haven't even entertained the idea yet about bringing technology to help us.
But
because we're still trying to work out what kind of campaigns can we do to add acquisitions to it, while also retaining and having that churn levels, adequate churn levels. So I think give me another 6 months.
It's fine. We can have a second episode 6 months from now, and then you can tell us all about the progress that you've made between now and then. But yeah, I mean, like this predictive analytics. I mean, it's everyone would like to have a crystal ball, right? It would make life so much simpler for everybody. Could you tell us, still on the same theme about operating the business, is there one particular thing that keeps you awake at night?
It is actually that kind of demand plan and then cash runway. They're so uniquely linked that, you know, what worst case scenario for me is over ordering, and therefore I've got money tied up in stock that isn't quick to go because we're not a producer. I'm not building their brand. I am giving them a platform for them to amplify their brand.
Yeah.
But actually, you know, I'd rather come in, nail it, you know, the right number to meet all of our customers. They get everything they want and nothing is retained, because actually that cash I could have spent on marketing today for those volumes later, but I'm having to buy that stock today for my, you know, expected volumes in the future. So that's what keeps me up. That's what keeps me up at night.
Fair enough. I mean, that's such a tough equation, such a tough nut to crack. It's it's like where to allocate limited resources between working capital, growth, today's cash versus tomorrow's cash. What's the ROI on the growth? It's you're not alone. A lot of people are grappling with all of this, which actually brings us quite handily to the topic and the main reason for this podcast, which is AI. Do you think so? You said you're not really using technology today. Fair enough. Do you think that there are use cases that AI could help with some of those use cases? Just gut feel.
Oh, 100%. Yes. I think there is a lot to unlock. Even in the trends, predictions, forecasts of what people are wanting to do, there's a lot of analysis there, which we'd find quite difficult. But also, just from a performance point of view, AI can do things with a lot more speed. So we have all of the timely, accurate, and good quality reports and data. And I suppose timely is the big thing there. We do it every month, right? And then we also have to buy 9 months to a year in advance. I think that's where I look at AI to support, because then I can get all of that kind of AI assistant to be like, here is what I can do to make you have the better decisions, and then I get to make 2 decisions per day versus having to make 6 decisions per day.
That's what AI is good for. If it has access to the right data, and if it has access to the right organizational context, then it can be quite magical. But those are 2 big ifs. I think the organization needs to be ready to embrace the tool. Otherwise, it's like hiring the smartest human out there who has a PhD in every possible functional area that you can think of, and on day one on the job, just telling that person, okay, now you go and help me, without any introduction, induction, any easing in of that person into your organization. So yeah, it's at the same time magical, and at the same time also frustrating if you're not knowing what you do. Good. Can we talk a little bit about leadership? So you've been here for 10 months now. Is there a leadership principle that you were certain about before you started this job that you're now changing your mind about? And it's okay if the answer is no.
Well, yes and no, I suppose. Actually, it was centered around the decision making. Previous to this, I was, doing managing directors stuff. So I was making the decisions, and I'd built my mission and vision, and I'd kind of built what I wanted to achieve. Coming as a CFO, obviously the right hand, not making the full decisions, and kind of going, right, I'm used to making the decisions. Now I've got to kind of realign how how one can add value without doing those parts or making different decisions. But that's probably what's changed in the 10 months that I've been here at the Curious Drinker, is, you know, working out that kind of, I don't know, the human behavior behind the decision making, and, you know, being respectful as a leader, but also, you know, making sure that you're doing it as quickly as you can, I suppose, but with all of the information, so it's evidence-based decision making, and then providing that to those that are going to make the decision. Whereas, like I said previously, I was making the decision based on what my risk appetite was, but also the information that I had and how I wanted that information to be received by myself. So that's a big change.
It's interesting. We're coming full circle, because now I think what you're telling me is that storytelling in the way the decision making is being done is also so important, because evidence-based, data-driven, yes, but how you package all of this so that the decision is taken, there's a lot of leeway there. And again, storytelling is everything.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yes, I quite like that. That's quite a nice way of coming back in.
There you go. So we've gone full circle now. That was really good, Huw. Thank you very much. So we're just gonna finish up with a couple of rapid fire questions, if you don't mind. Growth or profitability?
Profitability.
Nice. AI assistant or another marketing manager?
Oh, that's I would have to say it all depends on the situation. I think there's a place for both.
All right,
But
there you go. That's fine. There's no right or wrong answer. Brand building or performance marketing?
brand building.
Yeah. And finally, gin and tonic or gin cocktail?
Gin and tonic.
There you go, true to your roots, true to the company's roots. Huw, that was great. Thank you very much for your time. And for our audience, where can they find you, and where can they find the Curious Drinker?
So the curiousdrinker.com online. I'm on LinkedIn, and always around for a chat or an email. So yeah, that's how you can find me. But you can also find me through the Curious Drinker.
Fantastic. That was great, Huw. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
That was a pleasure. Thank you very much for the questions and the time. I loved it. It's been brilliant.